Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 9 of the GOT UYU Podcast. Today with me, I have my co-host, as always, UYU Drew. And then we have a very, very, very special guest. It's our IGL, or in-game leader, from our Pubg mobile team, Jag. The team recently, qualified for NA finals, which is awesome. Those
Yep.
start on Friday, October
Mhm.
29th. So whenever you watch this, you can go back and watch the VOD, or if you watch this before the event starts, you can obviously tune in and check the team out. So yeah, I'm not going to start it at NA finals for today. We're going to take it back a little bit and talk about your early career and your life outside of gaming, and then we'll kind of get into the stuff about NA finals and stuff of that sort.
Sounds
So
good. Sounds
obviously,
good.
everybody watching this podcast probably is familiar with you as a PUBG Mobile pro, but I want to
Mhm.
know a little bit more about Jag outside of PUBG Mobile. Do you have another job? What's or some hobbies you have outside of gaming and stuff like that?
Yeah, so I have a full-time job actually. I work as a college golf coach. And so I've been doing that. I'm in my third year right now doing that, and before that I played golf professionally for a little while and then played music on the side to kind of make a little bit of money. So that's what I do during the day and then log on and play PUBG at night. So
That's awesome. That's very cool. Like, what kind of music are you into?
I usually play for my church. Is what I usually play for, and so I did that for about a year and a half before I moved over to where I'm at now and started coaching golf.
Very cool, very cool. That's very unique. A lot of like
Yeah.
people outside of like I know, PUBG Mobile as an esport is kind of new, but a lot of times
Yeah,
a lot
it
of
is.
the guests we have on here are like all they do is play their game professionally. They don't necessarily like their schedule's like, "Oh, I get up 2 p.m.
And play.
and play, and then I go to sleep and I
No,
repeat. So that's very
no,
unique.
definitely not.
Yeah.
No, I get up at like 5:30 a.m. every day and go to work, and I get back in about 5 p.m., 6 p.m. depending on the day. And then I got about an hour to eat, shower, get set for before scrims and stuff starts. So it's definitely a full day before I even get online for PUBG.
When did you start playing golf? Like how early of an age?
I started playing golf competitively when I was about 10 years old.
Wow,
So I've been playing for 15 years. I played through high school, college, and then a little bit after college. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
That's really, really cool. Yeah. So, how did PUBG Mobile find its way into this life of yours? When did you start playing? When did your competitive career start? Like, was it just casual at first and then you found the competitive scene, or how did that go?
Yeah, so it started off with one of my college teammates actually. He played PUBG Mobile just for fun while he was in class because he was bored. He didn't have anything else to do, honestly. And so he was like, "Here, come play with me," because we were in the same class together. And so I played just for fun, casually, for about a couple months. And then I figured out that, wow, there's actually a competitive scene to this. Why don't I see if I can find enough people, enough players to kind of get into that? So it started out completely casual, no plans of doing anything professionally at all. Basically, first mobile game I played Rules of Survival for a little bit and got pretty decent at that, and then hopped into PUBG just as another new game to play. And 3 years, 2.5 years down the road, here we are.
So what? Wait, sorry. What year was that? About.
I guess that would have been 2018 because it was season two
Mm.
of PUBG Mobile, so it had to be 2018. Yeah.
Did you ever play the other PUBG first, the desktop one?
No, no, I never played that one. I had watched it,
Uh-huh.
the competitive scene of it before, but I had never played. So PUBG Mobile was my first actual introduction to the player
Unknown
battlegrounds series.
Battlegrounds.
Yeah,
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've obviously like watched a lot of like the PC PUBG before,
yeah, yeah.
but when obviously recently we got into PUBG Mobile, and even a little bit before then, I started watching the game, and it's actually like crazy how differently it's played at like a pro level.
Yes,
Just
it is very different.
yeah, and that's like what really caught my eye, and I really enjoy watching PUBG Mobile. Both of them have their strengths, obviously, but
Agreed.
PUBG Mobile is very like it seems like it's fast paced and like that like the last circle's like chaos. Like I've seen people like driving
Yeah.
cars into each other and like crazy stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's definitely more fast paced and more. I guess it's a lot more fighting as far as like CQC, close combat fighting. The mobile stuff, you're more DMRs fighting for positioning, and the mobile you can just take a car right up to someone's compound and not really get as punished for it, and so you see that a lot more than kind of the long range battles of PC, in my
Yeah.
opinion, at least.
Yeah. So obviously, with the UIU fans, they're probably, more apt to know the PC titles and kind of their
Yeah.
background, but I'm really interested about PUBG Mobile in specific, obviously. So since the time you started playing and competing to where we are now, how has like the competitive scene developed, and what like key turning points, I guess, were there during the time periods, like whether Tencent made changes or new organizations or something along those lines that kind of led us to where we are today,
Yeah, so that because I started playing PUBG before there was any kind of competitive scene in it. Everyone just rank grinded. You were just a rank grinder. And about season 4, they hosted a big tournament or season 3 or 4, I don't remember exactly. They hosted a big tournament for their streamers. So this is early 2019, late 2018. I don't know for sure. They hosted a big tournament for streamers, for some of their YouTubers and stuff, and that kind of kicked off the competitive scene. But there wasn't anything really for a couple months after that, and so actually I hosted tournaments myself for a little while, pay to play tournaments. A couple of the other big players in the community at the time hosted tournaments. I know Seven Worlds Gaming he's casting the PMPL right now, and he was one who would host tournaments as well. So there's a bunch of different, just not really Tencent, PUBG Mobile events, just third party people who just enjoyed the game, just hosting events. And then closer into, I guess, late 2019, Onward Arcade came in. They were a streaming platform, came in and hosted 2 big events. And then finally, Tencent came in and started hosting PMCOs and what we're playing nowadays. So the scene itself has grown tremendously. We went from just regular players hosting tournaments to the company itself hosting huge worldwide events in the matter of 3 years. So I've seen just tremendous growth of this game, and hopefully we will continue to see more of that. So that's kind of where it's come from and to where it's at now.
Yeah, that's
So when you guys started hosting tournaments, what was kind of the way you guys found each other? Did you just know kind of who the top players are, or how?
Yeah, so I played with a bunch of the top players just from rank grinding, just competing in classics and stuff. But I put it out on websites called Tournaments with 2 O's. And that was kind of where I found the base of my people who played in them, and just created a Discord, and it just kind of grew from, I had my first one, I think I had 12 people compete, pay to play, and then cash prize put out after, based on the amount of people that were playing. And then I think the last couple I was hosting, we had squads and about 64 people, 64 players. So I mean, it really grew into something. And then from that, I turned it into scrims once the actual tournament started coming up, and people didn't want to pay to play anymore because there were sponsors with cash prizes, and so there's no reason to. So just turned them into scrims, and then once I joined Courtney at Accelerate, I kind of gave up all that and left that over to her, and just started just focusing just on the competitive aspect of it.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
when did the Accelerate, I guess, team form? What year was that? That had to have been pretty early on.
So that was 2020. So I was on my first team in 2018, 2019 was with the team I created, and then I stopped for a couple months to move to my new job. And when I came back, a bunch of my teammates at the time had moved over to play at Accelerate, and so that's when I went and joined them once I got settled in with my job and my move and all that. And so I just went and joined the same guys I was playing with before, plus Trey, who's on my team now, and then just kind of hopped in on that team.
Awesome. So not many roster changes over the time. I think you named obviously like you came back and were with the same people. How many roster changes were there in total since that time to now?
So since I started, I usually keep the same guys around for a long time. That's kind of been my thing that I've enjoyed. So I had the base 3 players on my team for a year and a half. And then once we went to Accelerate, we picked up Trey, and he's been with me since then. And so we had the 2 of us, and then we picked up Salt and Nemesis. I'm trying to think, before this PMCO, basically. And so they've been around for 4 or 5 months now. And so we've had basically the same group for about that long. And bring in a guy here and there, Blinky and Kura, both joined us in the last couple months.
Yeah, that's like even 4 to 5 months in terms of like other esports that I manage and Drew manages as well is 4 years in esports time. Yeah.
And then Trey and I have been together for like a year and a half, 2 years now. So that's almost unheard of from what I've seen.
Yeah. So you noted that you like to have your team stay together, and in other esports, like I said, that's not necessarily like common. What is your kind of mindset behind that? Is it just team chemistry, or is it something more than that? Like what's behind that? Because it's easy. It's very easy to not do very well in a tournament. You're like, oh, that guy did really well. I'm sure he would be great on our team.
He'll be better.
Yeah.
No, I don't. In the world of mobile gaming, I'm a little older, and so I don't like to deal with toxic people, and that's what it comes down to. So I'm not going to go and pick up people who I don't want to be around 4 hours a day after I've just worked a 12-hour day. I'm just not. And so that's what it comes down to. And team chemistry is a big part of that as well. You get guys who you enjoy playing with, you feel like you can get better with and compete with. And so those are the guys I'd just rather stay around, even if that means working a little bit harder on certain areas of the game. If, say, someone's not as good with map awareness or with gun skill or whatever, just putting in a couple extra hours with them so that they become better and not have to just go and look for a whole new person and have to get them into what we do, what we don't do, and that kind of stuff. And so I just rather keep the same people around and just kind of let them learn slowly.
That's like more of a player development strategy, right?
Yeah.
Do you think any of that comes from you actually being a coach in
I haven't thought about that before, but that is actually very possible. Now that you say that, I can definitely see that 100%.
And then are you guys kind of different or from the other teams? Like, is there quite a few roster changes amongst other teams or? Yeah.
Yes. With most of the teams, like there's 3 or 4 teams who have been together about the length that our team has been together, UIU team. But as a whole, after big tournaments, roster changes just run wild. I mean, people are trying to pick up new players. They're getting rid of old players who they didn't like being around. And so after this PMPL, there will be 12 new rosters in it next year. Like that's just how it is in the PUBG mobile scene.
Yeah, that's very much so what
common across most esports.
Yeah, what we're used to seeing, and with your mindset, you can only imagine, right? Mm-hmm. Like sticking together. Granted, some of these teams might get better. That's a possibility. Making changes like that is a possibility. I mean, it happens. Mm-hmm. Like I say in other games, like people make changes and they go from top 16 to top 4. It happens. Yep. But there's also something to be said about working through the problems, and even if they're not problems, they might not be problems. They might just be like miscommunications or something somebody's on the
Mm-hmm.
wrong page or something like that, right? And there's
Yeah.
like I said, there's something to be said about working through that, because at the end of the day, like, you guys are developing chemistry doing that, right? So that's
Exactly. And it's just what it is maturing as a team. And I just really, once you've matured with a team for over a couple months, and then you win, and it pays off, it really, in my opinion, just it feels better, honestly, because you put in a lot of hard work with the same guys over a good period of time, and that paid off. So that's something I enjoy personally.
yeah, that's really cool. So, as I said at the beginning of this all, you are the IGL of the team.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that
Yeah.
entail for people that might not know? When you guys go in and you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, fixing some of these issues or whatever the case may be in game, like working on
Yeah.
somebody's game knowledge, how is that? How does your role transfer over to doing something like that? How do you operate in game? Do you play around that? Do you play to their strengths, or what exactly does that entail?
Yeah, so for example, for the IGL in game, just for most, at least the PUBG Mobile and PUBG scene, it's you're doing a lot more positioning of your players, a lot more of okay, this is the rotation we're making, this is where we're landing, and we'll have a co-IGL, which is Salt. And when I'm not around, he is the IGL. He'll step up and be the IGL. And so it's more positioning your players where they need to be and being an overwatch for them. Because in my case at least, and in a lot of IGL cases, you're not going to be the strongest CQC, so close quarter combat player on the team. And so you want to put your other players, your fraggers and your support players, in a position to get points, kills. And so that's what basically my job is to put the team in winning positions or at least give them a fighting chance. Like if we get hard shifted with zones, put them in a position where they can at least fight their way out of it instead of just driving in, dying, finishing bottom of the pack. So that's kind of the IGL's job. And so you're the brain of the operation, and they're the muscle per se.
That's really cool. Yeah. So, do you guys work with like a coach, or how do you
Yeah.
prepare, and how do you look over your mistakes and stuff like that? So in between, whether it's Super Weekend going into Pro League, like league
Mm-hmm.
play, or if it's league play going into Super Weekend, kind of what does that look like for a team?
Yeah. So for me, I do, especially during league play going into super weekends, a lot of odd review. So where are teams dropping on the map based on the playing path, and then where is their first rotation based on the first circle. Usually that's as deep as I go because once you get into second, third zones and on with these teams, they're more likely to get into fights, and which is going to change their rotation strategy. So if you can get where they're going to be first zone based on the playing path and then the first circle, then usually you can have an idea of where they're going to rotate around the map based on the other teams in the lobby. So I do a lot of VOD review, and so after we get done with league play, we'll have 15 games to watch back, and so I'll watch back all 15 games, and just see where people are. I'll at least watch the first 3, 4 zones, and just see where people have rotated, what their positioning is, and what they're trying to do. If they get hard shifted, if they're staying on a soft shift, or if the zone's coming to them, if they're going to stay in that position or try to move out. And so I do a lot of that, and then while we're in the tournaments, like yesterday, for example, we had a AEL, which is the South American teams and the North American teams coming together for a big tournament. So during the tournament, the team was together. Two of them had recorded the game, and so they were watching back that footage because they had made a mistake during that game, and they wanted to see what they could have done different. And so it's a little bit of both of that. And we do have a coach as well who will watch back our recorded games, or if someone's streaming scrims, he'll watch those scrims and he'll just kind of give us a list of this is what was good, this is what needs work, that kind of stuff.
Very cool, very cool. It's probably really helpful to have like that
Yeah,
resource in the pro league.
for sure.
Does every pro league team pretty much have that? Um, resource or no?
Most of them have a coach or someone who watches back their VODs, but some of them don't. You'll see most of the teams at the top will 100% have a coach or have someone on the team who acts in a position of a coach. So gets the VODs from the different teammates. This is what you've done good. This is what you've done wrong. This is what we're going to work on as a team. That kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So,
Yeah.
we're talking a lot about preparation and getting better and stuff like that, but one of the biggest things that I've learned in esports through my own personal journey and working with a bunch of different, wonderful players throughout my
Yeah.
career is one of the most important thing is the hardships you go through, right? So,
Yeah.
what are some of the hardships in your career that kind of like in a way helped you get to the point you are now? Is it taking a break or is it some sort of roster change? Is it coming into the PMPL? Because that's a good thing, but it could be a hardship, to go out there and
compete at that level.
compete at
Yeah. The getting to the PMPL wasn't really because it took us I don't even know 3 seasons to get to the finals or the PMPL because we missed PMCO 1 year, made it through the qualifying to get into PMCO, and we're kind of favored to do well. Didn't make it, and then came into this year with kind of more of a okay, we know what it's like, we know what we're supposed to do, and then we won the PMCO, finished top 5 PMCO finals, and then made it to PMPL. So we were more than ready, more than ready to be at that level and compete at that level because we had just put in so much work over the last couple seasons just to fall short. And so once we got here this year, we were like, okay, let's go. We're ready to be here. We've put in more than enough hours to be here, and so we were ready to get it. The hardest thing for my career was probably I guess it was last season. I don't know. Last season or the season before, both seasons we fell short by just a couple points, and it was really tough to kind of pick yourself back up because you got to wait a whole nother, I don't even know, what is it, 4 months before your next chance at really the top level tournaments. And so that was really tough to just continue grinding in scrims and then some of the smaller tournaments and just waiting for your next opportunity, basically. So
Yeah. What kind of like was it just love of the game or what kind of kept you going, because a lot of guys that I've worked with, on like an amateur level, what you guys were at the time,
yeah,
whenever, they come so close and don't make it, it's a lot easier to look the other way, and to be like,
yep.
"Oh, it's fine. I'll play another game," or I
Mm-hmm.
won't try as hard because, the people,
Yeah.
that'll mentally break, that'll mentally
Yeah, for
break you
sure.
and stuff. So, what kind of kept you going during that time?
So for me, I love competing. I've competed in sports just my whole life, and so there's not really any give up. Just being honest, there's not really any give up in me. And so coming out of that background, and once I stopped playing golf, I needed something else that I can compete in. And this was something I was pretty good at. I enjoyed, and so I didn't want to just because I didn't make it to the top that at that point I didn't want to give up, and I wanted to just see how far I could go. And just my competitive nature is really the reason I continued. And then the guys that have been playing around for a while, they were going to continue, and so I was like, if they're going to keep going, then I'm going to stick with them.
It's amazing.
And I figure, sorry, I figured that going through a career in golf,
Mm-hmm.
right, through all the different levels,
Yeah.
I mean, that has to help, right, immensely, because
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
I mean, golf in particular is a game where or a sport where it's not just one game, right? It's a whole
Whole
weekend or
season.
four
Yep.
4 days, right?
4 days of it. Yep.
And then you could have an off day, of course, but there's always more to
Still come
go.
back.
So
Yep,
yeah,
for sure.
I imagine that that's a real advantage, kind of. I think like anyone who's competed in things
Mm-hmm.
outside of video games and then comes into esports video games has that kind of other perspectives to bring to it. And
Yeah.
I imagine that I mean, you've been doing it since you were 10, you said, right? So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
ingrained.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that that was a big help for me.
Yeah.
just having just some work ethic from that to bring over into the esports industry, and then having competed at a high level as far as just like you're doing something different, but it's still you know how to calm your nerves, you know how to just focus in when you need to, and that kind of stuff. And so you're not coming in with just okay, what do I do now that I'm actually playing under pressure against really good players?
Yeah.
Because I've done that before, just in a different way,
Right.
and now I can take some of those same just the fundamentals of it and then bring it over into esports. No, I agree. I think that did help some.
Yeah, and even like going into a tournament like NA finals, it is Friday,
Yeah.
Saturday, Sunday. You go back to golf, you know, those
Just the same.
multiple days events, like that's
Mm-hmm.
a direct, correlation right there.
Direct correlation between the two, yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah, I think
Drew was
I
talking
think
about like how you can afford a bad day. Obviously, nobody wants a bad day, but
Yeah.
that's when, like, let's say you go out and do have one. That's when that
Mm-hmm.
experience and kind of being there before can kind of help
Yeah.
you, and elevate you, and
Mm-hmm.
it can elevate your teammates because you'll be like, hey man, like we got to wake up tomorrow and do the same thing. Either you can roll
We're gonna do the
over
same
and
thing and just
yeah,
do better this time.
yeah,
See
you
what
can
we're
either
doing
roll
wrong and
over
let's
and
go.
quit or you
Yeah.
can get up and go. Like obviously you
Mm-hmm.
want to get up and go because this is a you're in the pro league kind of
In
thing.
the pro leagues,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, I agree.
for sure, for sure. That's really good insight, and I think like having that direct correlation, I could see it definitely helping at like a level like this.
Yeah.
Like I've mentioned, kind of like that being there before type of thing. I'm sure it helps
Mm-hmm.
having that level of calmness for the rest of the team, right? Um,
Yeah.
but I want to go back to like actually like getting the roster to qualify for this PMPL
Mm-hmm.
season finally, right? Like you picked up two new players. How
Mm-hmm.
did you exactly find those players and kind of where was the I guess motivation to pick them up? How did you know that that's who you wanted for this team?
Yeah, so we had after we qualified for PMCO last season and missed the PMCO finals, two of our guys stepped back. They were like, "Okay, we're probably done. This was the last go around for us." And we are like, "All right, you know what? That's good." Trey and I stuck around, and Trey and Salt were on a team together back in season like 5, 6, I don't even know, of PUBG Mobile. So this was back 2019 time. Um, and they were on a team together. And Nemesis was on the team with them as well, or he was good friends with them as well. So we picked up, I don't remember who we picked up first, but we picked up one of them. I think Salt with Trey, since they're friends. And then Nemesis came along after, I think is how it went, or vice versa. I don't remember, but both of them had played in PMPLs previously, and had done really well with their respective teams. And so once they had left, their teams disbanded. And so once that happened, Trey was like, "Hey, this guy's really good. We need to grab him." And so we picked Salt up, and then Nemesis also came and joined because he was one of the top fraggers on his team in PMPL. And so we were like, "Well, we couldn't have two better players. We don't have any PMPL experience ourselves, Trey and I at the time, and so we are like, well, we need to get in some guys who do have that experience since Suzuki and Cypher had retired at that time, and so that's kind of how we went about picking them up. Two guys with really good experience had top fragged on both the teams that they were at, and that's what we were looking for.
Yeah.
so when you're putting together a roster, how much of it is kind of roles like you explained?
There, for me, that is very very important.
Yeah.
Because in PUBG Mobile, with the state of the game that it's at, you don't need three people who run DMRs, for example,
Mhm.
because there's too much CQC. There's too much close quarter combat in the game the way it is, and if you don't have a couple guys running either SMGs or 7.62 ARs, you're gonna kind of get run over because there are going to be other teams who have four. And so
Oh, really?
when I'm putting together a team, I do really make sure that the roles gel well. Everyone can kind of work together, and we have the right equipment per se in order to do that.
Very interesting to think
100%
about.
matters.
Yeah, that's very interesting to think about because a lot of games are like, all right, we'll just get 4 people that can kill and we'll call it a day.
It'll be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's very refreshing, and I like that a lot. Like I
Mm-hmm.
like it when like you can have like a set like role on the team. Like you're looking to
Yeah.
do a specific thing, like whether you're on a DMR, you're
Mm-hmm.
longer range, right? So,
Yeah.
or if you're running something else like CQC, like you mentioned, that you got to be more aggressive, right? You
Yeah.
can't be
You
caught
know what
lacking
your
at
role is.
distance. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Exactly. And so that's kind of that's also what we looked for when we were picking up the team. And then someone with some kind of IGLing experience, because this is Asuzuki was the co-IGL before he left, so we needed somebody who could come in and kind of pick up that role. And Salt's been able to do that really well. He's come in and been able to be a co-IGL, and now IGL when I'm not around, and do a really good job at that. So
yeah. So going from like just PMCO and some other
mm-hmm.
tournaments, the preparation for that I would assume is different than when you're preparing to
Yeah,
go against Ghost X at nights.
yeah.
From an outsider perspective, can you talk about that? Like coming into this season after like you got the first week out of the way, were you guys
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we have to prepare different, or is it kind of just like we want to play our own game no matter what?
So starting with just the PMCO, we were a good ways ahead of all the other teams in PMCO. Just honestly, we could out rotate them all day, and that's just what we did. We just put ourselves in better positions than all the other teams in PMCO. Same thing with PMCO finals for the most part. Still finishing top 5 there just because we could out rotate them. You move into PMPL, and especially PMPL finals, which start this weekend. Every team here knows how to rotate. So more than anything, you have to learn an aggressive play style and learn how to, all right, when do I take a fight? When do I rotate? When will there actually be space open in this zone for me to rotate? Zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. Um, and so we really, PMCO was kind of not too difficult for us. We did our VOD reviews and that kind of stuff. But once we got into PMPL, it was like, okay, we really have to zone in on how much we fight, because we're going to have to fight a lot more against these teams because they're already going to be in zone. If we get hard shifted, they're already going to be set up in positions. So we need to figure out how do we move them out of that positions and take it from them, basically. And so yeah, it was very different preparing for PMCO based on PMPL or PMPL. Yeah.
Yeah, as I would imagine so. So when you're preparing for, let's say, you're preparing for a pro league match or you're preparing for a
Mm-hmm.
super weekend, and
Yeah.
you talked a little bit about like knowing people's drop spots and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Is it common practice to like not drop on a team and like that you think you're better than and like try to beat like gun them down, or is it like you're gonna just find your own space on the map and work from there?
Mm-hmm.
Since it seems pretty set from team to team, like.
Yeah, so most of the PMPL teams now, because we before PMPL even started, we had about 3 weeks of scrimmages together. So all the fighting on the drop for the drop spots was pretty much done then. Our drop spots were already set. We didn't really have anyone contesting us too much for ours. We've been dropping the same spot for, I guess, a year now, or at least I have. And so that didn't change too much. There are teams who will drop on each other based on, okay, you know what, I think I'm better than you. And so either you fight us for this spot or you leave. And so that does happen some. And I think we will see some of that in the PMPL finals, or at least there's been talk of it in the discourse. We'll see if it actually happens.
That's funny. That's funny. It's kind of like
Yeah.
I noticed that some of that stuff like started happening where like teams were not necessarily like landing on each other, but they were kind of like chasing down the bottom teams, right, and
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to get kills and
Oh,
stuff
yeah.
like that. So
Yep.
very interesting. It's kind of like a cat and mouse game when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
you're gonna pounce on the opportunity. Like if you know that a bottom
Mm-hmm.
team's landing next to you, are you gonna just chase them down? Hey, we're better than you. I don't care what your loot is. We're gonna take you
Yeah.
out, or you
Pretty
know,
much.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
no, it definitely happens, especially once you start looking like to the final couple games. Super Weekend or the final couple games of league play, you definitely see some of the top teams or even some of the middle teams chasing down the bottom teams that they don't want to qualify because they have similar drop spots or drop near each other. And so once you come into those last couple of games, you'll definitely see some of that, especially for league play.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So, just about the game in general. I know we're talking about drop spots, which is obviously, I assume to be at least, not obviously, but a major fundamental in PUBG Mobile esports. What are some like, from your experience, what are some other like the major fundamentals that you could tell to like somebody that aspires to be in the PMPL like you one day? Like, what are some must-know things to study? Is it drop spots, loot, like other teams' rotations? What do you think that these people should be looking at to improve their game? Step 1 and 2.
Yeah. Step 1 is definitely because when you're in the beginning stages of PUBG Mobile career, drop spots don't matter as much. You're really looking for how do you fight as a team? Like, what are your comms like? So how can you direct each other in team fights? Because if you can't team fight with the people you have on your team, you're going to be no good. So that's the first fundamental. How do you fight together as a team? Do you have good communication skills with your teammates or not? And then after that, it's learning the power positions, or is what I call them, on each map. So where can you position yourself that it's hard for people to push you? It's easy to have sight lines and get kills from those sight lines, and easy to rotate from there. So those are what I would consider some of the basic, just fundamentals of the game, other than just how does the zones close, how do the guns work, which ones do you want, that kind of stuff. But so definitely like team communication is a huge part, especially as you get up into the ranks of PUBG Mobile, and just where you position yourself in each map.
Awesome. Yeah. That's very good insight. Like I'd assume like as years go on and even as, this specific year and next year go on that there's going to be a keep influxing of players that are playing PUBG Mobile and hopefully competitively too, right? So yeah, like I noticed that there's even like you guys have specific skins for the Pro League players and stuff like that. That's very cool. Hopefully one day there'll be org skins. That'd be very cool. But
that's
like,
what we're hoping for.
yeah, yeah. That I think that'd be super sick.
It would be, and it would give not only the orgs more reason to join the mobile scene, but it would also give Tencent more ways to make money. Give the orgs more way to make money, because that's the reason that a lot of orgs aren't joining the PUBG mobile scene, because they have no way to monetize themselves being in it at the moment, other than just, okay, your players are making money, you're getting your logos out there a lot and that kind of stuff. And so that's a different subject though.
No, yeah, but it's still valid. I think going forward, like that'd be like cool. Like we want to make 10 cents some money. It's not just about us. It's not just about you.
Yeah.
They do a lot for the scene, so I'm sure we'll have to run that up the chain of communication. But I'm sure they'd love to hear that.
Yes, we have.
Yeah. So I want to like talk about the UYU team in specific, and this question is actually one from our wonderful manager Courtney, who wants you to explain what is a fun fact about everyone on the team that that people might not know. And I heard somebody doesn't have the best driving skills.
Nemesis is a horrible driver. We don't, because sometimes where we drop, we'll only get like 2 or 3 cars, and so we'll just put Nemesis in the passenger seat, or just let him drive alone, because no one will drive with him. At Portray, every time he got in a buggy with Nemesis in the league play, he died. It was like 3 for 3, 3 for 3 getting killed because Nim was driving a buggy. So Nemesis is an awful driver. God, I don't even know. Fun facts. This is tough.
From your perspective, it could be about gameplay. It could be about anything.
Blinky. I don't really know Blinky well enough, but supposedly talks a lot, but we still haven't seen it because he came from a couple of the guys that we knew as a sub at the time, and he's super quiet. But when he says something, it's usually off the cuff and hilarious. So when he speaks, it's funny, but he doesn't talk a lot. Kura, great, super hard worker. Love Kura. He's I don't know, he's shy. He's very shy before, and then when you get to meet him, he's kind of like Blinky. He talks a lot.
You unlock a
Blinky
beast.
Yeah, pretty much. Salt. I don't know Salt too well. Salt's a simp. You're welcome, Salt. That's my best fact about Salt.
That is hilarious.
That's my best fact about Salt. I don't know. Great gun skill. He's got some of the best mechanics I've ever seen. At least I've played with. There's something positive. Trey actually, he plays college basketball.
Oh, really?
So yeah. So yep, he plays basketball down and where he's from in Jamaica. And so ever since COVID happened, it's been a little more difficult for him to do that. But he plays collegiate basketball. So yeah. So he's another athlete on the team. Maybe why we've been together so long. 2 athletes.
That's actually a very, very good fun fact. Wow,
Yeah.
like he's a baller. That's super cool.
Yeah, he is.
That's wow.
I don't
respect to him.
have too many good fun facts about people.
No, but those were good. Those were good, and that'll make Courtney happy that you answered that question. So, well, I'll just ask you this: like, after all these years and every time like you've tried to make it, how does it feel knowing that tomorrow you're going to compete in the PUBG Mobile NA finals as a team?
Yeah, it's really good. It makes basically all the hard work pretty much worth it. Because we put in a lot of hours as a team trying to get here and to finally make it. It feels really good. And it means a lot just that it wouldn't have been for nothing anyway, because we would have grown together, competed, had something to do, especially through these crazy last couple of years. And but to make it this far and to say that we are the top 16 team of the top 16 teams in North America is something very, very neat, and that not many people can say out of the hundreds of thousands of maybe millions of people who play PUBG Mobile in North America, that we can say that we're part of that top 16 teams. And so that's really, really cool to me.
Yeah, what's the goal going into the weekend? Obviously, the goal is probably to win, but broader, like, what are you looking to get out of this? Is it moving on to the next stage more than anything, or is it just the regular improvement?
Regular improvement's always good, but the goal is to kind of move on to the next stage, which is PNPL Americas, I think is what it's called. I think it's top. I don't remember if it's top 6. I don't remember the exact number.
I think it might be 5.
Yeah, 5 or 6. I don't remember exactly. But that is the goal. Salt's team last year made it they were top 5 and made it to the PNPL Americas, and so that going into this, that is our goal. Get top 5, and building up to that, our goal was all right, we're going to improve mechanics, team communication, team fights, and that kind of stuff. And now the goal is, okay, we've put in that work. Now we're going to go get top 5. And that doesn't come in one game. It's going to be over 3 days. So it's going to be a grind, and we're going to have to overcome some stuff probably in that process. But the goal is definitely top 5.
Yeah.
And of course, win first, if not top 5.
Yeah. Winning first would be super cool, I'm sure, right?
Yes.
Like, that'd be crazy.
Yes.
But
that would be.
Yeah, so you're talking about like things that before going into NA finals, like you're talking about improving mechanics. Obviously, for like PC games, and people that watch this later will see I'm holding my mouse right now. They do aim labs and stuff to like work on like aim, like they're just mouse aim, right? Like, what are some things that you guys do throughout the year to like work on specifically like mechanics in game? Is it just reps or?
It's a lot of reps. I mean, for a while there, we were playing 5, 6, 7, 8 scrims a day. So 7 p.m. scrims and then 10:30 p.m. scrims. And then outside of that, I know a lot of the guys do 1v1s and 2v2s. And so you set up a match in game in a TDM, team deathmatch, and you can create rooms in that. And so they'll just spend hours just doing that, working on different things in those TDMs. And that's where a lot of the practice comes from, just running scrims and then running 2v2s and 1v1s. Because there's no real aim labs that I've found that you can get the same sensitivity on PUBG Mobile as you can in the aim labs. So it's mostly just kind of you're just running through reps.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to like working on rotations as a team and stuff like that, I've always been interested in this, and this is a random question, but I'm sure casual people or people that aren't familiar to PUBG Mobile probably have the same question. But when you're rotating with a car, is there like certain paths you have to take so you don't crash, or like, well, can you just go wherever you are, like GTA style, fly off a mountain? Like,
no. So there are, for me at least, for this PMPL, PMCO, there are routes that you take with your car to be farther away from positions that people are most likely to hold. So I know when we're rotating, because we land on mostly the east side of most of the maps, and so I know the path that we have to take to keep us away from where people could hold, or within, to where we're not driving right up on them, to where they actually have to hit some pretty nasty shots in order to get us out of the vehicle. So I have certain paths that I rotate down that keep us far enough away from compounds that we can see if someone's in it or not in it, but also not die in the process of rotating by it. So yeah, there are 100% different directions that you have to rotate, different paths that you have to take in order to not just get lasered out of a vehicle or hit a rock and die or something like that.
When somebody shoots a tire on a car, do you just like spin out, or like is it harder to control?
You spin out, you get out of your vehicle, and you lay down behind your vehicle and hope for the best. Because and put a smoke down as quickly as you can and hope one of your teammates can come pick you up later. Because especially if you're riding a buggy, because the buggy is kind of the meta at the moment for a lot of teams, because it's hard to shoot people out of the vehicle with a buggy, but it's easier to pop buggy tires. So what you see right now is a lot of people, they'll just go for the tires of the buggy, and if you hit a back tire in a buggy, you just go zooming around in a circle, hop out, put a smoke down, and hope you don't get beamed from the other side.
That sounds
That's basically
crazy.
how it is right now.
Yeah. So, let's say you're taking your buggy and you're on the rotation route. Like, do you always like know if you're coming up like on it? How are some ways that you get information that you're actually like pulling up on a team? And if you do know, like, what are some of the first things that you do as you're like approaching? Do you just ram the vehicle on the side of the wall? I've seen that before. But
that happens a lot. So usually that's happening more like zone 4 or 5, when there will be nothing else open. So it's just like, okay, this compound center, it'll probably be a next zone. Let's just take a fight. And so they just send 4, just full send into the compound and hope you win a team fight. And it's not a bad strategy if you have nowhere else you can go. Most of the time when we're looking like zones 1, 2, you're still looking to rotate. You're driving up, looking to see if there's vehicles in there, looking to see if kind of people are peeking the windows, stuff like that, and just small things that you can give away that there are people inside this building or on this hill or something. Most of the time, the vehicle is the dead giveaway that someone is in there, or you can just send a scout to circle around the compound, and usually if you make one circle around it and no one shot at you, it's probably open. And so we'll leave someone to overwatch just in case they're getting peeked from a window. You can possibly get a knock, and then we'll push the compound. But yeah, there's definitely different things to look for while you're pulling up on compounds and seeing if stuff's open.
Gotcha.
Usually vehicles are the dead giveaway, and you can scope those out before you're pulling up most of the time.
Cool.
Can you hear the vehicles too? I know.
Oh yeah, for sure. There was actually a glitch they got a new skin, Tesla skin in the game, and when you were driving it, it was completely silent.
So because it's an electric car.
Yeah, Yeah, what teams would do for a while is they would just put 4 in a Tesla and just full send like a compound, and you wouldn't even hear them pull up until they were right there in your compound. And so they finally patched that, I guess, in PMCO they patched it because it was awful. It was so bad.
It was technically accurate, right?
It was technically accurate, yeah, but then they got so many complaints from people like, we can't even hear the Tesla pulling up. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
So
That's
they gave
actually
it a little bit of
hilarious.
noise.
I always thought, like, in real life, not that I ever would want to do this, but if you're like doing a robbery, that a Tesla or like
was the perfect vehicle for it.
Yeah, it's so quiet.
What were the Prius, dude? That would work too. You get on
So, you have to stay under 30 miles per hour though.
You couldn't go that fast in it.
that car, man. But that's actually like crazy information. So like people were just full sending it. It's like they had dead silence popped in Call of Duty. You couldn't hear anything. Like you're just you look out the window. You're looking out the window like, oh, there's a team on us. What?
Yeah. Well, how'd they get here?
Yeah.
Yeah. That happened multiple times.
That is crazy. So right now, in your opinion, like obviously the Tesla car seems kind of crazy good before it got nerfed.
They fixed
nerfed. So like right now, what do you think is the best gun in PUBG Mobile?
The best gun in PUBG Mobile?
Yeah.
So if you're wanting to run like a meta loadout, is what I'd call it, you'd run an M4 with 6x and then a UMP. And that's that gives you, because you can spray an M4 from a very unreasonable distance and hit stuff. And then the UMP is just the best close range gun right now. Or you can, on Air and Gun, you can run like a DP and a UMP. So those are the best. That's the best loadout you can have for sure.
This is a noob question, but can you shoot underwater? Like when you're swimming?
So, no, while you're swimming you can. But
if you go to the surface, maybe?
Nope, not even when you go to the surface.
Oh, so wow.
They last week they had a game where it ended in the water.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, to be honest.
Yeah, you can you can swim up under somebody and boost them enough to where they get out of the water. If they're holding their shoot button, it fires off like 3 bullets. And so you can go under someone, boost them up out of the water, and it'll fire off 3 bullets. And so that's what they were doing.
Has there been a kill like that in PMPL this year?
Yeah, there was one. There was one that game.
Wow, I must have missed that.
Yeah. There was the water zone ending, and he got someone with that.
I obviously like shout out to the wonderful casters of PMPL. They've been showing a lot of love to like our tweets and stuff like that. But
awesome,
I was like reading through the Twitter, and like Mustache Dave was like, somebody asked like who won that game, and he was like, the viewers.
The viewers. Yeah. Honestly, true, because none of the players won that game.
That was
hilarious.
Hang
out in the water for like 5 minutes. It's like, all right, who's gonna die first?
Yeah, that was like crazy to watch, because like I was like, oh yeah, like we should definitely do well this game, and I was like, oh wait, we're in the circle, but like the circle's water. Like,
all water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something.
So like, what's your like technique? I'm getting into like different fundamentals of the game, but I'm sure this will be helpful to somebody someday. But there was a specific clip that we tweeted out where you guys were swimming through the water, came up on an XSET player, and like they were on the rocks and killed them. And I forget who it was, but when you're in the water like that, how do you get that sort of information to make a play like that, or do you just guess, or like what is your like plan if you're like swimming somewhere and you know that there's probably going to be people trying to, like the caster say, go fishing, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen you even do it earlier in like league play. Like you survived out of the water, like just in a smoke grenade, like for like a long time. What is like your strategy doing that? Like, do you know that people are there, or how do you even like fight that? Because I feel like you're just like they say, fish in water, you know?
Yeah. So for that particular game, I'll just use that as an example. We came into zone. We kept the bridge a while because we didn't want, because we knew XSET was on the other side of the bridge. So XSET usually holds a split. They hold one in the compound, one on the hill to the west of the bridge, and then one on the rocks that we ended up swimming up later, and then one like directly on the bridge, or something like that that'll hold different variations of that. And so when we hopped in the water, we saw, as you're flying with your vehicle off into the water, we saw one guy with his buggy parked on the ridges right there. And so we were like, our only chance is to, before his teammates get there, we need to swim up as a 4-man and be able to fight him and hope he doesn't basically get us before we get there. So you can hold your breath for a certain amount of time in game and take a little bit of damage as you're going. So we just stayed under as long as we could until we got to the edge, and then Trey and Salt went up together so that he didn't get a 1v1, and he made it. We made it a 2v1 basically on him, and that's how we took advantage of that, because we knew it was only one there and the other two were on the bridge, because we saw on the kill feed that they were fighting another team who was trying to cross the bridge behind us after we had already sent it into the water. And so that's how you can use it to your advantage, because they can't see you unless you come up to the surface to breathe. And so we stayed down as long as we could. Like, he knew we were there, but he thought we were going to be easy kills because we were in the water. And usually when you're in the water, you come out one by one. But Salt waited for a little while for Trey to catch up, and then they went out together and took a 2v1. And as far as just snaking in the water, there's no real way to do it properly. You just keep your head down as long as possible, and get up here and there and wait for a couple people around you to die or get shot, so that maybe they think there's no one left in the water. I mean, that's your really only hope.
That was
like, okay, they're all gone, we can move on.
Yeah,
that's your best chance.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like, you survived so long, like solo doing that.
I don't know.
You had to have been freaking out,
how.
man. You had to have been.
Yeah. I think because one team moved in before me, and he had put like a line of smokes down, in the particular game you're talking about. And so after he went up, I just waited and just went right behind him in his line of smokes, and that was kind of my only chance there.
Yeah, that's crazy. So to bring it back, like, that seems like some really, really, really good communication to know to pop out at the same time. Take a 2v1 instead of a 1-on-1, like I competed in Call of Duty, so I'll reference into that. So like, it's basically like, somebody's in position, you count down 3, 2, 1, go into position, right? Yep. So that's like really, really, really good communications. Like, what is that something that really, like, in your mind has propelled this specific team to be, at the position that they are in NA finals? Or what do you think are the team's like biggest strengths right now, in your opinion? Is it teamwork? Is it that sort of communication in those small, like, in Call of Duty and like Search and Destroy, we call them small round situations, when you're in a 2v2, 2v1, 3v2, stuff like that, having good comms, like, is it that kind of stuff, or what do you think, like, has propelled this team to a new level outside of like roster changes or whatnot?
Yeah, I think that because our coach really prioritized our comms, like really, really prioritized our comms over this PMCO finals, and then scrims up into PMPL. Like, that was his big thing, because our rotations were pretty good, and then we needed to play more aggressive, because our strength as a team is our fragging ability. At least for Trey, Nemesis, and Salt, they're really, really top-notch fraggers. They win a lot of 1v1s, 2v2s together, and so really, that's our strength as a team. That, and then our communications has continued to get better. So the things that we've been working on are putting ourselves in position in order to play to the strengths of their fragging power. And so
awesome.
That's kind of what
that's good to hear, like, having that level of like help, like you said, and having that fragging power is probably crazy, right? Like, and
that's been the difference in the team, honestly.
And our we did an interview with you, or I did, right? And that went on the Twitter page, and you were talking about being more aggressive and stuff like that. Obviously, that was probably a strategy, getting those fraggers going, Yep.
Yeah, no. And our previous team, like, we had a good team, but Trey was the only real fragger on the team. And so to be able to bring Nemesis and Salt in and surround him with two other really, really good players that are of his caliber, has been that's the reason that we've progressed a lot farther than we had in the previous years, I think.
Cool. So that kind of concludes our PUBG Mobile esports talk.
All right.
For our casual viewers or people that are UIU fans that don't necessarily know anything about PUBG Mobile or mobile esports, or really maybe even mobile gaming in general, right? What is kind of like the preferred setup for a professional player? Is it like iPhone, or is it kind of a mixture, right? Is there like audio devices that are preferred? Is there mics that are preferred? Anything like that would be, I think, helpful coming from you.
Yeah. So one of the things that a lot of players have, it's iPhones. I'd say 85% of the players in PMPL use iPhones, just because for whatever reason the PUBG Mobile at least runs better on an iPhone. Because I tried other phones and they just didn't. They weren't nearly as good. Yeah. And so PUBG Mobile doesn't have any frame drop or anything with an iPhone. Headphones, it just depends on who you are and what you prefer. I prefer in-ear like these. I don't like the headsets that go kind of over-ear headsets. So in-ear is what I prefer. I got these from one of my previous players. Kind of showed me these, and they've been the best $50 I've ever spent as far as headphones go. Best set I've ever used. That's not over-ear headphones. So just something that your mic doesn't cut out. Because we've had problems with that in the past with guys who have horrible mics, and that goes for any esport. That's not just mobile gaming.
Oh no.
But usually an iPhone is your best bet. You need some kind of splitter, so you can charge and have your headphones plugged in at the same time.
Yeah.
Unless you're a Bluetooth guy, which I don't know of anyone who is, because this sound just kind of gets messed up sometimes. But anyway, so you have a decent splitter that's going to actually last you more than a couple days. And then most of the guys have either a fan that they set behind their phone, or an ice pack or something that they set their phone on after the game, just to kind of keep it cooler, because it doesn't have a built-in fan like most PCs or laptops or anything. So you need something that you can use to cool it down. Because once it starts getting too hot, it dims itself, and you don't have any control over that. And that's the last thing you want. Your phone to dim itself mid game.
Yeah, or like don't put yourself on do not disturb, and next thing you know, you're getting a call.
Yeah, that's actually the worst. Or a low power mode comes on halfway through a fight, and you're like, oh, cancel. Had that happen before.
So there's some things that override the game, like a call.
Yeah. Yes. No. If you don't, what is it called? There's a mode you can put your phone in that you don't take calls. It doesn't take text messages or any alerts, and so that's what I put mine in. I don't remember what it's called.
Have you ever had something like that happen, where like one of your teammates gets a call mid game?
Yeah. No. Yeah, we had it happen. I had it happen to me. It was I don't know, it's been a little while, a couple months ago or something. It was before PMCO or anything. I was playing, and then someone called me mid-game, and I forgot to put my phone in like do not disturb mode, basically. And I come back and we're all dead. I'm like, nice. That's just great. Or you can get a call and lose comms to the game, and that happens too.
Oh yeah, so the comms it's not like Discord. It's like inside the game, right?
Yeah, inside the game. Discord. You need an extra device in order to use Discord and PUBG Mobile.
That'd be too hard then.
It would.
Your computer. It just wouldn't work. Yeah.
Your phone might start on fire if you like try to do that on the same thing.
Because they already have us running an anti-cheat app and PUBG Mobile, and then you throw Discord on top of that, it just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And just blow up.
Shout out anti-cheat though, because that would be horrible if you had to play a pro league without, or even just like
anything without it's kind of a little suspect.
There's some games that don't, so you should be thankful that you do have it.
I'm very thankful. As much of a pain as it can be sometimes, I'm glad it is there. You never know.
Yeah.
Sad as that is.
Yeah. I mean, people do that kind of stuff all the time.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but yeah, that's basically all I had for today's episode of Got UYU. Drew, did you have any sort of comments, remarks for the people out there or for Jag?
No, I think it's really great to get to learn more about Jag and just your journey, also mobile esports in general, and more
Yeah.
specifically PUBG Mobile. And I think, yeah, I mean, Hunter and I've been messing around with the game, but I think it's something hopefully everyone should give it a try. It's I think maybe one of the reasons also why iPhone works the best is that's like probably the biggest consumer base, right? So
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it is.
Just based off accessibility, right? Like pretty much
Yeah.
everybody these days has a phone. So.
Everyone's an iPhone user now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple other phones here and there, but you're not going to have that day to day anyway. So it would be
yeah.
just PUBG Mobile, which some people have some phones like that, but they're still iPhones even then.
I see.
Cool.
Well, good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
I guess
Thank you.
starting tomorrow.
Mhm,
We'll be
yep.
watching and cheering on.
Yeah, we'll
Looking forward
definitely
to it.
be watching, cheering you on. I get really like at the beginning of the pro league and stuff like that. I got really nervous all the time because I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
But now
yeah.
I downloaded the game and it took me
Kinda
a
got a
little
feel for it.
while, but I got my first kill. Like,
Nice.
yeah, dude, like going
good.
from PC like console shooters, I can do those. I've never played a mobile game, so I was
Different.
so bad, like
Yeah.
so bad. It was really hard. So that day I
Yeah.
developed a new level of respect for everybody. It's a different skill
It's
gap.
just
It is.
different.
Yeah.
Because I started off just when I was younger. I played console, all the Call of Duties, and then moved into kind of Counter Strike and stuff like that. And then from there over into mobile gaming once my laptop kind of started going downhill. And I was like, oh, I got a phone, so why not do this? And then kind of got into the competitive scene after that. So yeah, I've been all around, but I don't know. It's just once you get the feel for it, it's just like anything. You get used to it.
Yeah. Did you
So
like
it
compete in any
definitely
other
started.
games before this?
No, I didn't. I got to where I was pretty good in Rules of Survival, but it was never competitive or anything. So PUBG Mobile was my first competitive like esport.
That's interesting. That's very cool.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, Jag, it was really cool catching up with you and talking about some PUBG Mobile esports.
Yep.
It might have been some easy questions from me for some of the viewers, but hopefully I was useful to some other people. You were definitely useful to everybody, so I appreciate it, and I appreciate everybody for tuning in to Got UYU episode 11 featuring Jag. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you very much, and I love you all.